I would like to thank you for joining us this morning on this virtual meeting. Basically, we all are aware of the current pandemic that we are faced with. And so we're just going to have a little chat basically on what are some of the measures that you would have implemented in your various entities, to help to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. In the present context of the global pandemic, in which there has been a significant reduction or halt in global agricultural production, which will undoubtedly have consequences for food security across the globe. I would like for you to share how has the COVID-19 impacted your sector and what measures have you implemented to mitigate um, these effects, or if there were any effects. We can go ahead with Mr. Selwyn from the Guyana Livestock Development Authority.
All right, morning everyone. Are you hearing me?
Yes, you're clear.
Yes.
All right, I'm so happy to be a part of the meeting, and I would also want to welcome the other sector representatives and heads that are representing the meeting. At GLDA, we are very, very concerned about the services that we provide to the stakeholders. As a result of that, we have most of the field staff working from home, but at the same time, they are on call responding to the needs or any issues that would have actually been arisen by any one of the stakeholders or any one of the farmers. As it is, we have at the head office, we would have set up a task force that would meet every Monday to devise a strategy to deal with COVID-19 for our stakeholders. Having done so, we assign a duty officer who is at the office every day, and he gets a report from all the regional coordinators and all the heads of department with reference to what is happening in the various regions and the various departments every day. And those reports are usually sent by 12, and after he would have gotten that update, then he would disseminate pertinent information to the other staff or to anybody that is being affected by the reports that he would have gotten. Should we have to work with our partners or any one of the other stakeholders or in terms of agencies, we would normally disseminate that information. Additionally, we make periodic checks on hatching eggs availability because we are concerned about food security during and after this pandemic. And we would want to know that we continue to import the right amount of eggs so that we do not be in short supply of chickens. And we also check on availability of chicken and the feed materials so that meat supplies are on track all the time. We continue to visit all the abattoirs because we are responsible for antemortem, and that is the inspection of animals before they slaughter. And in all the regions, the staff will be visiting the abattoirs on the designated days so that we continue to perform the duty of antemortem inspection so that we can have meat available for the nation. So in a nutshell, that is what we're doing at GLDA. Along with that, all the field staff, we're asking them to make sure that precautions are taken while working with the animals, while visiting the farms, make sure that we are properly sanitized and everything is on track. All the field staff would have been given a boost in our field gears in terms of bucket. We'd have gotten hand sanitizers, we'd have gotten soap, hard brush, and everything that is required for us to be better prepared to work with the farmers because we recognize we have to keep working with the farmers. So that's it in a nutshell from GLE.
All right, thank you so much. We're going to move on to Mr. Nizam Hassan, who is a general manager for the Guyana Rice Development Board. You can go ahead, Mr. Hassan.
All right, thanks a lot, Kalon, and good morning, everyone. Yeah,
Good morning.
firstly, at the board and in terms of its offices across the regions, we are operating on a rotational basis and on call. Let's start with our extension services. Our extension officers operate from home, um, where they will, at this time of the crop, it's being harvested, and so they liaise with the farmers to get harvesting data. And should there be an issue, and in some areas there's some incidences of paddy bugs, so we have monitoring and advice in terms of spraying and so on. But notwithstanding, the point I want to bring out with regards to extension officers that they're operating from home. And if you're familiar with our operations, we have extension officers in every region, but within the regions, we have districts. So, an extension officer has a particular area for which he's responsible for, and he knows all the farmers within that area. So it's no longer, well, at this time, an 8 to 4 operation where he gets his data or he communicates with the farmer. He can do that in the evenings, he can do that early in the mornings, and so on. Weekly, that information is then communicated to the regional superintendents, again via phone or via email or via WhatsApp messaging. And then from the regional superintendents, the data goes on to the extension manager who collates it and then submits it to the general manager. So essentially what I'm saying, our extension services continue to operate, and we continue, especially at this time, to monitor the crop for the incidences of paddy bugs and giving the advice to the farmers, and also monitor crop harvesting, collecting harvesting data. And you should know that at this time we have harvested just over 50% of our crop. So far, the yields are showing just over 6 tons per hectare, which is a 0.1 more than what our national average was for 2019. And just over 200,000 tons of rice, that's rice equivalent I'm giving you, has been harvested. With regards to quality control services, and again, you would know, Kellan, that we have quality control officers across the regions, and they operate at the mills and the wards. Here again, they're on rotation and operating from home based on call. So should we have a request from a miller, look, I am packaging rice for a particular contract and I require the service of a quality control officer, the officer is then called and dispatched to the mill, and they do their work there, and then they get back home. At our head office, which is now located in the Ministry of Agriculture complex in LBI, our labs, the main lab, I should say, then just has about 2 to 3 persons on any one time. And it's a very big lab. I'm sure you would recall, Kellan. It's a very big lab. So we have 2 or 3 persons here. And essentially, if any material comes in from the wards that they have to do any work on, they're very much spaced out. It's over 12 feet in terms of distances from any between 2 persons. And so they get to do their work. Additionally, the other officers who are based here are then at home, and they're also on call to respond to going to the wards. I have to say though that all our quality control services continue to operate as we would normally operate, because trade is still ongoing and we are still exporting product. That said, within the office itself, we have the usual things that most, if not all of the offices and businesses have done, which is encouraging persons to wash their hands upon entry into the building. In some cases, people advise them to wash before. We have hand sanitizers placed at the entry points, and we've put the WHO advisories up at all points where people can see, and they're encouraged to wash their hands, sanitize. In all our washrooms, we put up notices and diagrams in terms of just advising persons, or reminding them, I should say, how best to wash their hands. At the research station now, some of the experiments are closing off. As I mentioned earlier, the crop is at harvesting stage, so some of the experiments are closing off. Some have closed, and most of the work now is based on the data that has been gathered for that to be analyzed. You would know, or you may know, that some of our senior technical researchers live on the compound at Bormo. So basically, they're physically there, but not physically in an office, but they still operate doing their work. In terms of our harvesting of seed paddy, that is ongoing. We do have some staff out, but if you're familiar with harvesting, at most you'd have two persons around a combine. I mean, one the combine operator and one is on the ground, just walking to clear any blockages that may happen in front. So there's no closeness between persons. And then it goes into a bin cart, and then it goes into a truck. So it's not a lot of persons gathered together. With regards to our marketing services, this is where the export documentation and all that is prepared. And those services we continue to provide. Earlier I mentioned that trade is still happening, so we have to provide that services. But we have staff on rotation. You may know that with the Asicuda system, a part of that documentation is online. You know, not the full export documentation is fully online, but the customs part is online. So to some extent, that is helping. And we have advised the millers, exporters, to inform us a few days earlier with regards to the need for their documents, because, you know, with the GRA itself having less hours in terms of how they operate, and then with less staff. So if you needed 3 days, you probably need 5 days now to start preparing documents and so on. Essentially what I'm saying, Kelon, that we are still operating, providing the services, but responding to the needs and very conscious of the need for to protect our staff, our clients, and so on with regards to the issue of COVID-19.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hassan. We're going to move on to Mr. Brian Sears. Is Mr. Sears
Hi,
here?
Kellan. No, Brian Sears is on leave currently and he couldn't make it.
Oh,
So it's just Miss Ida Seeley, Mr. Selwyn, and Mr. Nizam.
so we're going to move on to Mr. Ida. To Miss Ida, rather, sorry. You can go ahead.
Good morning to you, Kellon. Good morning to
Good
the team.
morning.
At the Guyana Marketing Corporation, we are operating basically to a large extent remotely from our homes. We visit the respective office as the needs arise. In terms of our services, I'll start off with the packaging facilities. The packaging facility is operating on a needs basis. If a request is made to have an exporter utilize any one of our facilities, whether it's Parika or Central Packaging Facility at Sophia, we will be offering this service. As we speak, we are currently in preparation to have a shipment process next week, once everything goes well, to one of our regional markets by an exporter. In terms of our refrigerated containers, they are in operations. We're continuing to provide the service to our clients. We have our staff operating on a rotational basis because they have to go and visit, ensure the refrigerated containers are in operations at the temperatures that the service providers would have requested. So that is being done. Our need basically for the entire team to observe the WHO guidelines in terms of social distancing, sanitization is in full force. So whenever a staff visits any one of the packaging facility, he or she wears his or her mask, and the necessary measures are taken into consideration. Our service, which at the Marketing Information Center, which is very critical to us, at head office, Rob and Alexander Street, we are encouraging our clientele to communicate with us. Many of them would have gotten the staff's respective telephone numbers, or they can utilize emails, whether it's the staff email addresses, respective email addresses, or the address for the corporation, which is info@newgmc.com. So services such as provision of nutritional facts information, provision of the USDA, there is a registration that's done. We continue to offer the service once it is requested by our respective clientele. In terms of our extension officers, currently they are not in field. However, they are in communication because the respective officers, they have their catchment. The extension officers, they have their catchment areas. So they are in communication with representatives from the respective communities. We continue to provide our market linkages, and this is done basically because we have a group WhatsApp where all of the staff at GMC, they're on the WhatsApp group. We found that's the easiest way of communicating, and it has proven to be very effective during this period of time. We're a team with just on average 45 staff, so you would understand why it's very effective for us. So the linkages, persons who have supplies, it's been communicated to the respective buyers. So we should be having some exports continuing. Notwithstanding that, let me just make an announcement that you are aware that the 2 international airports are closed. So this has taken a toll on our exports, for instance, to Suriname, because of the cessation of the ferry service, and also exports via Caribbean airline. But what we are working on exclusively at this time is to have, as far as it's practicable, exports being done via sea, because some of the countries, the ports have not closed, so we are continuing to capitalize on the information once the exporters express the need. In terms of the measures that we are putting in place, what we're encouraging our stakeholders, again, the whole idea of social distancing, sanitation, in terms of transportation of their produce, ensuring that they wash, ensure that they use clean waters, and those guidelines that are in keeping with what the Ministry of Health Public Health has been promoting. We are also encouraging the handlers along the supply chain to ensure that they utilize their masks and all other safety measures, because at the end of it all, at this time, whether we're a local buyer or to satisfy our export market, we want at least some assurance that the produce that's been available to us are safe as far as it's practical. So we are communicating this information to our clientele.
Thank you very much there, Ms. Saley. Um, this question is for you, Ms. Saley. Panic buying has been a major feature in many countries that is affected with this pandemic. Now, has there been any hint of this on GMC's stocks?
Okay. In terms of the Guyana shop, I should mention that we are currently closed, because what we would have found for the prior to our closure last Saturday, for the last 2 weeks, there was minimum traffic in the Guyana shop. It's important to note also that many of our stakeholders or buyers over the period have been persons from the diaspora. When they visit, there are certain commodities that they will take. With flights not being in operation, what we found, there was a significant reduction in the persons that entered the Guyana shop. In terms of your question of panic buying, we were, as you are aware, we are close to a very hot spot. That's the border market. And prior to the change being made by the Mayor and City Council team of having 1 day being allocated for selling, which was originally on Fridays, things were, in our opinion, normal. But the very day it was announced that the market will only be made available for the public to do shopping on Friday, it was crazy. And we being so close to the area, we found there was a need for us to increase the measures of protection for our staff, especially at the Guyana shop. That being said, with the change being made of 7 to 2 operation days daily, we found when a visit was made last Saturday, there was a significant reduction in the number of persons, which meant persons were using the opportunity to either purchase at earlier times or to probably purchase in bulk rather than traversing the market on a frequent basis.
Mhm. All right then, thank you. Mr. Anthony?
Yes, I'm here.
Right. So this question is for you. Given the GLDC's pivotal role in local livestock development, how does it see its role at this time in increased programs for adequate local market supplies of dairy products?
All right. As it is, GLDA, let's see, A. All right. As
Yeah,
it is,
GLDA, sorry.
yes, we continue to work with our farmers, as I would have mentioned, and the local dairy product would have been particularly fresh milk. The production of fresh cow's milk will continue, and it is available continuously because the farmers still will do what they're doing routinely in terms of grazing their animals and feeding the animals. We're making sure that feed supplies are in constant supply for the farmers. As a result of that, the farmers can continue to produce the amount of milk that is required. With reference to what is imported, dairy products that are being imported, well, as you are aware, as Ms. Seeley would have mentioned and many others, the ports are closed, so we don't have any control of what is coming in. But what is being produced, we continue to encourage the farmers to keep their production systems in place, working with them so that we can have fresh cow's milk available and all the other related products.
Right, excellent. Um, Mr. Hassan?
Go ahead.
Great. So is the GRDB in a position to take advantage of the possible increase of overseas market demand for rice as a result in the halt of global agricultural activities?
Well, Guyana itself, as I mentioned earlier, we project the um, full production from the crop. We don't expect that there will be any fallback from our projection. And so for this year, just as we had done last year, we expect that we'll get over 1 million tons of paddy this year, which will be close to 700,000 tons of rice equivalents, all things being equal. So far for the first crop, we're doing well. I mentioned this earlier. We have over 6 tons per hectare, just
Yeah.
6.1. But we are 50% of the crop being harvested. That said, from what we see within our exports to the Caribbean, the first quarter, 19 and 20 compared, it's stable, no significant move, but our exports to the European Union fell. And I guess we can say partially because of COVID, or mostly because of COVID, because countries like Italy, Lithuania, France, the Czech Republic, we haven't sent anything so far for 2020. But having said that, our exports to Latin America rose. And in fact, we had an overall increase of 40% in the exports to Latin America. And this is primarily contributed because of the jump in our exports to Venezuela. So we are doing well in our exports to Venezuela. Last year we did at this time 15,106 tons compared to 24,653 tons, quarter to quarter compared. So whilst there has been a fallout in some of the markets, and some of it is linked to COVID, and some of the markets relatively is stable, there's no significant increase or decrease in the demands. We are, with the production that we project to get, we're confident that we have adequate supplies for our local markets, regional markets, and extra-regional markets.
Excellent, excellent. All right. So, is there any other thing anyone would like to add before we actually put this meeting to a close?
No, I think I basically brought out
Yeah.
where we are with production and where we are with exports. Yes.
Yeah.
Kelon,
Hi.
this is Jarvis.
Oh, hi, Mr.
Um,
Jarvis.
well, I wear two hats, and let me speak first from the ASDU perspective.
Yeah.
Um, most of the work that we do is being managed by remote, but the heads of projects will come in, and I'm here for a minimum of 2 hours every day, so they can leave stuff to have it signed and so on. We have suspended inspection of premises. We would usually help the agencies roll out their engineering work. That has been suspended because the whole making contact is one. Some of the things we had have been overtaken by the total lockdown. We try to make sure that the staff who work with the ASDO and do not have their own transportation, they're picked up from home, brought to work, and taken back home so that they can not have to do the public transport there. That's the ASDU. But in terms of the wider ministry, where I'm operating as a chief technical officer too, I think our bigger concern now is not so much the social distance which everybody's practicing, is to ensure that production continues across the sector, not merely for Guyana, because we are making promises to CARICOM that we can supply food. You see, this is an opportunity for us. And we are going to try to have them waive some of the sanitary and phytosanitary barriers that they put up because they need the food now. However, we've got to make sure that our farmers who are producing continue to produce. Now, the guy who can't sell his lettuce will not plant back another set of lettuce. The guy who can't sell his tomatoes will not plant back another set of tomatoes. So we're toying with a range of things that will need higher guidance to ensure that, one, the farmer gets his produce sold at fair price, and not just vegetables and fruit and plants, but also meat. Two, we see what we can do to prevent John Public from having to go to the markets. So I was talking to GMC this morning, and we were looking at how we can take the market to the farmers, to the residents, rather than have everybody jump in a bus or a car. So agriculture should have we should have about 3 spots we can go in the vehicle and sell, for example. I'm sorry that Nari is not here because they were representing fruits and veg, but I spoke with the deputy CEO earlier, and he has indicated that things are pretty normal. The challenge that we have, on which we will be seeking outside help for, is to ensure that the transportation systems from outside of Georgetown is coordinated to have foodstuff come. Now, the boat from Region 2 was pushed to 3 days a week. 3 days a week. I'm happy to hear that that has changed. Now it's once a day. But you need the stuff that those boats bring, the trucks that come on the boats, they bring perishable stuff. And so we've got to be very mindful that whilst you may be having production as we speak, if the folks can't sell what they have, it may pose a challenge. So we're working in close collaboration with our sister agencies and the other ministries to ensure that there is a constant food supply, not merely for Guyana, but we have undertaken that whatever CARICOM wishes to buy, we can supply given fair price and adequate notice. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Jarvis. Just one thing. In terms of food security, with the average person shopping in bulk, there are some wholesalers and retailers who are actually hiking their prices on local markets. Is anything being done to monitor, the situation?
Well, I'm not sure how bad. The short answer is, at present, outside of the usual market surveys that are done by GMC and the other agencies, I don't think anything special has been put in place to this. But remember, let's use the basics like rice. It's difficult for that to hike because we have supplies.
We have supplies,
So
right?
everybody who sells got rice to sell. So it's not a question that, well, if I don't buy it from you, I won't get it anywhere else.
Right.
Meat is still here. I bought, and the meat price hasn't changed. But there is sufficient interest in that aspect of it to see us having the discussion with our principals to prevent that from happening. And in the past, when Mr. Hassan would have been the GM at GMC, GMC would have stepped in at that time to help do the balancing act. Something similar to what Guyana would do from time to time when the guys want to hike the price of fuel, you just come in and do a balancing act. So it's not something that we're unaware of. I don't think it has hit food, that locally produced food, that much as yet. But I will take the suggestion that we monitor it and see how best we can intervene. But like I said, some of these things are a little bigger than us, and we will have to take it up, because for sure you have to be able to intervene in the market if necessary.
All right, then. Thank you so much, Mr. Jarvis. So I would like to thank you all for being here on this virtual chat room, or we can say meeting. I know that we all have to play an integral role in, putting an end to this global pandemic. And so as we continue our day, I urge everyone to make sure you adhere to all of the precautionary measures, implemented by the Ministry of Public Health. And we hope that we share them with our household as well as our friends and family. So here's where I say thank you, and I do hope you enjoy the remaining of your day.